Soviets themselves may, in a limited way, be coming to understand the importance of freedom.
Live from Studio 2, this is the Rob Ceru Program.
Hello, Westchester. Welcome to the Rob Ceru Program and LMC TV. I really appreciate the opportunity for being here. This is episode 2. Folks, it's been a while since we met. It was before the holidays in 2014 when I did my first episode. I have to tell you that times are changing, and they're changing for the worst. I've never thought that we would be in a society where Americans and people abroad would be persecuted for their freedom of religion or their belief system. It's happening. Israel is at the center of it, and at this point, I don't understand how why the United States has not done more to help out our friends, here and abroad. The disparity between the rich and poor is getting worse. Unemployment is rising to new levels that are not really being. The truth is not being told on the true unemployment numbers. I don't understand where the country is going, but things are definitely different. Things are definitely a lot more sensitive than they were just 10 or 15 years ago. I have to tell you that I've been doing this a little while now, and being new at this TV thing here at LMC TV, doing this and radio, I never have become, I'm not immune yet, and I hope I never become immune to the shock value that is being handed to me every time I research stories to bring to you that I feel are being underreported or not reported at all, so you in turn could share these stories on social media and have your outrage. Enjoy your First Amendment free speech while it still exists, because it seems like people are being persecuted and executed alike for their freedom of religion. But before I get to that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that in a couple of seconds. I just want to say that we've always had evil in society. We've always had bad guys. And that's never going to change. Usually if somebody did something, you really never heard of outrageous reasons behind it. It really doesn't matter. A crime is a crime, and that's the end of it. There was this, but if you want to do something and you want to create outrage in a different sense, which is not a crime, but you want to create some kind of shock value, boy, did this feminist blogger do just that. There was this feminist who aborted a child is one of my top stories tonight because, quote, she couldn't bring another monster into the world because the boy, it was a male. She was making the preparations, assuming that it was a girl, whether, the when the pregnancy things that women do, that my wife did, prior to having a child. Not too much emphasis ever put on gender, not for us at least. And what happened was that she didn't want to bring another monster in the world. She was making all sorts of plans for what she thought was the girl's future. The story is really bizarre because it did cause a massive uproar. People are really, really ticked off about it. She said she would do it again, quote, if the curse returns. So it says here, why would she want to kill her own child just because it's a boy? And the article goes on to say just how twisted is feminism in America if this is the result. Look, we have a right to be who we want to be, and even though what she did is not illegal because of Roe versus Wade, 1973. Why was this law was used for the wrong reasons? I've never heard of such an atrocity. Usually, it's done because of simple choice, whether it be the woman is not ready, doesn't have a partner. There's a multitude of reasons. Danger to the female, where the female's life has more, obviously takes precedence over an unborn baby. I mean, there's certain things that out there that are understandable to society, but this, really? I saw this coming. I just didn't think it was going to hit that quick. And the reason why I saw it coming is because I'm thinking to myself that the divorce rate is so high. I mean, it's like nobody's making it anymore in marriage. Marriage is going to be a thing of the past in the United States come down the road. And it's bothersome because, everybody wants somebody. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants somebody to go home to at the end of the day. I get that. But at the same time, you have a world where the me factor is coming into play more and more. But the problem I have with that is I can understand if you're afraid of being committed or something to that degree, going in uncharted territories. But at the same time, if you're doing it out of arrogance and it's all about, me, and I don't need anybody because I hate women, or I don't need anybody because I hate men, we have a problem. It's a fundamental problem because at the end of the day, you say to yourself, where do we go with this? I believe that people eventually down the road are going to feel more lonelier in this crazy world that we live in. I think the only way to not feel as lonely is to expose the insanity via social media and other outlets, and talk about your feelings with other people to know that you're not the only one feeling this way. In the future, we are going to do this show live, and I will take your calls. I want to hear from you on your questions, comments, and opinions, because I don't want to hear about the political correctness, because it kind of is a little bit of a cancer in every single one of us. Would you agree? Not saying that you have to be mean, but political correctness, though, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to address issues. When we say, the American, security agencies that are supposed to be responsible for our security and our liberties here in America are not doing their job, or we feel like something's missing and we're wide open to future terror attacks and the like, it seems like that in itself is scary enough. But when Americans and our fellow neighbors, if you will, friends and extended family, are turning on each other because of opinions, we got a real problem. We have to join, not separate. Going forward with this particular story, this story is mind-blowing. It was done for the wrong reasons, irrespective of how I feel about abortion does not matter. What kind of twisted person would do something like this because of gender? I don't get it. This story shocks me, but it's not totally shocking because I kind of saw something like this coming. Moving on tonight, out of Cairo, Egypt, the Islamic State released a video this past Sunday that it showed the beheadings of 21 Egyptian Christians just because they're Christians. It's bad to be a Christian nowadays. It's really unpopular. And they were beheaded, and they were lined up meticulously on a beach with one member of ISIS behind each Egyptian Christian who was brought to his knees. I believe they were all males. The hands bound behind their back, and heads decapitated. This is what the world has become. Now, let me tell you something. You say, well, that happens there. What does that have to do with here? Because I'm telling you that the global caliphate and Sharia law alike, things that will kill you for simple freedom of speech, simple freedom of religion, like you see here, can come to America. The problem I have with America is that I've learned and confirmed that the FBI has removed for their training, out of their training manuals for new recruits who want to join the Bureau, have removed terms such as jihad and extremism, because this current administration feels like that when you pick on those things, you're picking on religion. But the problem I have with that is that you're really not. If somebody is if somebody is doing things that are murderous and because you don't believe in their belief system and you believe in your own belief system, that has nothing to do with religion. That's simply murder. I mean, would you agree with that? This is why I'm looking forward to your open lines. We're having a very common sense discussion here. I'm not going to talk to you in any other way except through common sense. Okay? I try to deliver the stories that I can, but I have to tell you, the Islamic State, along with these beheadings happened in Libya, and the story is coming from Reuters out of Cairo. That's where it's being reported. President Sisi warned that the country would respond to the deaths as it saw fit. Retribution. He's pretty much saying, retribution, here it comes. He says, quote, necessary means and timing to avenge the criminal killings will happen. This is 21 of them. This is only the beginning. If we get used to news like this, then forget it, because it will eventually happen here. Look how quickly we got used to the Boston Marathon bombing, when every news agency in America pretty much reported it every day for 3-4 days in a row. We're not supposed to get used to stuff like this. This stuff is supposed to be responded with outrage. It's not supposed to be responded with well, good, I don't care, because Americans are so fed up nowadays. We're almost at the point where we're become immune and got this hard shell about us, where we don't really care what happens, or if something happens outside the country, we think we're protected by the oceans, and that's just not the case anymore. The borders are open. Will an attack on a scale of 9/11/01 or greater ever happen in the future? I don't know. I have a friend who works for one of the government agencies who thinks that Manhattan, who said this, I never forgot this. He said this to me about 15 or 20 years ago. He thinks Manhattan could be wiped off the map down the road. Boy, I hope he's wrong. A lot of friends and that I talk to, politicians alike, say that they believe the enemy is already within. I want you to take a look at this video, which explains what the atrocities that happened to these 21 Egyptian Christians.
Islamic State militants have released a new graphic video showing what they claim are the executions of 21 Egyptian Copts kidnapped in Libya. The video was published on the Twitter account of a website that supports the jihadists. The Copts, native Christians of Egypt, are shown in the video dressed in orange jumpsuits with their hands tied behind their backs, while being walked along the seaside by jihadists dressed in black. The Egyptian men are then forced to kneel before being beheaded. Several very graphic images of the killings appeared on Twitter. We will not run the images, believing it is unethical to publish the footage or pictures of atrocities committed by terrorists even if they cannot be immediately verified. A caption on the 5-minute video read, "The people of the cross, followers of the hostile Egyptian church." Before the killings, one of the militants stood with a knife in his hand and said, "Safety for you crusaders is something you can only wish for." As cited by Reuters, local media reported on Sunday that the fishermen were kidnapped by a group of militants. Authorities in Kafr el-Sheikh, northern Egypt, where the fishermen worked, appealed to the government to take immediate action to rescue them.
Folks, let me drive the point home of what the narrator just said in the video. Quote, before the killings, and I'm repeating what he just said so I could drive this to you, one of the militants stood with a knife in his hand and said, "Safety for you crusaders is something you can only wish for." Safety for the crusaders, safety for the killers. We're living in a world where common sense has become totally disabled. The United States goes on to say, quote, "The despicable and cowardly murder of the 21 Egyptians is condemned." Well, let me ask you a question, United States of America, to this current administration. What are we doing about it? What exactly are we doing about it? I don't feel safe anymore. I know it's easier to unplug. I've unplugged right around the holidays. I unplugged from like late December to early January. It was just too much. I wanted to concentrate on other things. Family, things that, try to make you whole. make you get through a day. It's tough to get through a day. It's tough for anybody to get through a day nowadays. We're living in times that are really not meant for the the times that we're living in. The stresses are greater than ever, but the problem is that when we look for the outlet in the wrong way, it never ends well. Let me tell you something, folks. If in the future, I look forward to your calls. I will take your calls live, and we could talk. I'm looking forward to that. Moving on tonight, I want to talk to you a little bit about another story out of Colorado, where a Colorado church refuses to hold a funeral for a lesbian woman for a dispute over affectionate photos. When this pastor in Lakewood, Colorado, found out, his name is Pastor Ray Chavez, discovered that the family's memorial video contained photos of the deceased Vanessa Collier, 33 years of age, kissing her wife. He decided at the last moment, which I think is horrible, that he was not going to hold the funeral, and the family instead decided to move the service elsewhere. Well, good for them. I think that's horrible that, the separate, look, we know what it might say in your Bible or your Quran. We know what it says about gay marriage. At least I know what it says in the New Testament. But however, let me drive the point home. I don't think that this guy had the right to refuse services for a deceased woman because of her sexual orientation. It's wrong. The family said that it was, quote, devastating and disgusting, and also the friends of Collier, the deceased, are calling for, quote, dignity in death and for other gay people. Let me tell you something, folks. Just because I'm a traditional married guy doesn't mean I don't support you for your sexual orientation or preference. I support you 100%. I have friends from all walks of life, and being in the media for some time now allowed me to understand people. Not that I never didn't understand people, but just because my lifestyle works for me and your lifestyle works for you doesn't mean we can't come together and join in the middle. The problem is that we're judging each other based on what and I'm using this just as an example. You're poor because I'm rich. I can't get gay rights because you're a traditionally married guy. But that's not the case. We're just making up stuff as we go along, folks. I support you as long as you're a lawful, abiding citizen. I don't care what you are. It doesn't matter to me because I don't judge. I don't think anybody has the right to judge except at the end of the day, your creator. If you believe in your creator. If you're an atheist or agnostic, that's fine too. But when we start arguing over opinions and making them as fact, then that's why we're at each other's throats. People generally speaking that's what America has come to. We know it's harder than ever nowadays. We know that people are working 2-3 jobs and more to make ends meet. Look, there's always going to be rich. There's always going to be poor. It's just the way it is. I don't know what else to say about it. But this story is mind-blowing. This guy, Pastor Chavez, he declined to comment. There was a spokesperson who said, quote, the pastor of the church did not sleep well the next 2 nights. Well, I wonder why. I mean, you don't do a last-minute funeral cancellation. It does not make sense just because of his personal belief system. Again, what happened to the difference between church and state, or church and personal belief system? I don't know. It was only 20 minutes before the service was to begin when Pastor Chavez found these photos and refused to do the last ceremony for the deceased. Friends who gathered in the protest, they're demanding an apology, and the Denver Post is saying, quote, you will not find Jesus at New Hope, but you will find hypocrisy. You know, I got to tell you something. I kind of agree with this. This is wrong. when Collier, the deceased, she died this past December 30th, and her gun went off while she was cleaning it. It was an accidental death, and she and her wife, Christina Higley, have two daughters. Moving on tonight to a very big story. There was a federal judge, okay, that temporarily blocked President Obama's immigration executive action, where he's now giving 26 states the authority to block executive action, because the bottom line is that the House and the Senate wanted to ram through the immigration bill and allow, for the most part, the 10 million that they claim are here to be granted status as long as they met some very specific criteria, which was easy enough for at least 80 or 90% of these people to meet. Here's the thing. This is a war going on between intergovernmental agencies. The U.S. District Judge Andrew Hannon, he granted a preliminary injunction on Monday, yesterday, if you will, after hearing arguments in Brownsville, Texas last month, and he wrote a memorandum saying that the lawsuit should go forward, and that without preliminary injunction, the states will, quote, suffer irreparable harm in this case. He also says, quote, the genie would be impossible to put back in the bottle. He wrote, adding that he agreed with the plaintiff's argument that legalizing the presence of millions of people is, quote, virtually an irreversible action, because there's a lot of problems with this. The White House press secretary said in a statement that they believe that of course he's going to say this, believes that the Obama administration is within its legal purview, if you will, to do this. Hey, listen, look, the bottom line is I know people from all walks of life, and they know me. Come here for a better life. Okay, I get it. America is still probably the best place to be on the global planet Earth. However, what is so difficult about coming here and applying for your status legally? If it's too difficult, maybe you got screwed over by a lawyer, and the system shafted you down the road. There is help, including help from me. But the bottom line is, if you're coming here to to cause harm, or you're coming here to with bad intentions, obviously you're going to fight not to legalize yourself. But the system is not that hard to navigate through U.S. immigrations. It's really not. Actually, I know how it's done. It requires a lot of paperwork, a lot of patience, and a couple of $100 in fees. And if you are here legitimately, you will have a right to be here legitimately. A lot of times, as you know, folks, people get married, fakely. They make it look good on paper and through photographs. And what happens at the end of the day is, it doesn't work out because, you're just doing it to get to legalize yourself, through marrying an American. However, I'm sure there are ways to come here through the legalized system. It seems like it's based strictly on coming here as a family or through a family. But the system is not that difficult to navigate through if you do it properly. Otherwise, we need accountability of everybody, including myself. I have a right to privacy, don't get me wrong, but there needs to be accountability for people here. Then you have the work visas, undocumented, this and that, and then how do you account for who's already here? And the answer is you can't account right now. And I don't see the federal government kicking out 10 million, between 10 and 40 million illegals who are not here through not being documented properly. I don't see it happening. However, this injunction is really something else. This is breaking, folks. What's going to happen is that there's going to be an appeal, and through the Obama administration, handled by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. And when stuff like this happens, with Judge Hannon's decision, he says, I don't want to have, I want to stop the president from overreaching in his tracks. And this injunction is going to be a temporary stop I will be following the story to see how it plays out, because this is big news, and I never thought you'd see this coming. This is actually stopping executive action on a temporary basis. Incredible news. There's been a big outcry. It's been a hot topic for a while now. We'll see how this plays out, folks. Moving on to one more quick story here. I have to tell you, there was a Jewish journalist. He's getting hate on videotape as he strolls through the streets of Paris, and the story reads as days after a gunman in Copenhagen opened fire on a synagogue. Do you remember that at a free speech event? That's going to happen here, folks. The free speech is going to come to an end here in America through violence, not necessarily through censorship through your current administration or any other. When that free speech event, killing 2 in a synagogue, the video uploaded to YouTube shows a Jewish journalist walking around in Paris in his traditional Jewish garb, where he secretly recorded a whole barrage of anti-Semitic hatred, threats, and epithets against him. And the hatred for Jews is really, really bad. We're going to talk about Israel in future broadcasts. They're sitting out there all by themselves, and they are a friend of the United States. Many from Muslims, a lot of this hate was coming from, including a little boy who asked his mother, quote, "Doesn't he know he will be killed?" Wow. This is what's happening for simply being Jewish. Did we forget that quickly that Hitler's Holocaust happened just minutes ago? Okay, this happened 70 years ago. I have never seen for footage that I grabbed from one of the local cable channels that I'm going to show you in the future that talks about Hitler's wrath, along with pictures. I want you to never forget American history, because if we forget about history, folks, it will repeat itself. Until next time, I'm going to wrap it up now. On behalf of LMC TV, this is the Rob Ceru Show. I look forward to seeing you in the future. Good night now.